drift on a sailboat. My love is the sea. Yours is the horizon, constant and steady. You said my limbs looked tired to flow, lifted my lonesome sails. The tide is out, the moon is high, we're sailing.
Hey everybody, welcome to this Tuesday edition of Morning Coffee with your host, Rick Alexander. For those of you that listen to the show on Friday, you know that I'm in Washington State right now for the Bigfoot 200. I have a friend who is trying to, or was trying to run his first 200-mile race, and I'm here to work as his crew and then also to pace him, which basically means I volunteer to run with him. And so I'm happy to report he did finish his first 200-miler, and I ran about 80 of those miles with him. But the job of a pacer and a crew, for those of you that are not familiar with the endurance world, it is a full-time gig. I've slept 3 hours since Friday. I've taken morning coffee to an all-new level. I've essentially run off coffee and nothing else for the last 4 days. But like I said, I'm happy to report he got through it, mission accomplished. And I was thinking about a bunch of different things, well, as I do when I'm running for hours and hours and hours on end. I think my last stretch was 21 hours straight through the night into the early morning. But I think that one of the things that's worth thinking about in this instant is this idea that we seem to be wired for servitude. And the reason, obviously, that I'm thinking of this is because we had a whole crew trying to get him to the finish line. Now, I'm used to being the one that's the athlete in this situation. I'm the one typically that I have a whole group of people that are trying to get me to the finish line. And what I think is interesting about this is I have the exact same amount of satisfaction that I got him to the finish line as if I were to do it myself. Yet if you were to ask me, do I want him to be racing or do I want me to be racing? Of course, I would say me, right? And most people would, especially if racing is something that you like to do. But the reason I'm drawing light to this is because we tend to be self-serving individuals. Yet, when we serve others, there's some part of us that's fulfilled that can never be fulfilled when we serve ourselves. For whatever reason, humans seem to be wired for servitude. If you talk to anybody that's ever done anything for anybody else, whether that's a charity, whether that's raised money, no matter what that is, nobody has ever looked back on something they've done and regretted helping or serving somebody else. And the reason I think that's interesting is because what we want and what's going to make us feel best seem to be at odds. And so we almost need to override what we want. And so today what I wanted to draw light on the fact is that a lot of us have ideas for things that we want in life, places we want to go, the people that we want to be, jobs that we want to do. And yet we have immediate desires that we have to figure out a way to override in order to get the thing that we ultimately want. So think about the idea of delayed gratification. Most of you are familiar with the idea of delayed gratification. I believe it was Stanford, don't quote me on that did the marshmallow test. And I'll run through it super fast, although I know most of you probably are familiar with it. But in essence, basically, they gave these kids a marshmallow and they said, if you eat this, you can eat this marshmallow right now, but if you wait, let's say some arbitrary number of time, like 20 minutes, then we'll come back and I'll give you 2 marshmallows. Now, what they did is they tracked whether the kids took the marshmallow or they waited. And then they followed these kids throughout the rest of their lives. And they had a whole bunch of measures of success, a whole bunch of metrics that they used, whether that was like marriage, money, success, jobs, whatever, wealth. And what they found is the kids that waited for the second marshmallow happened or tended to be more successful in life in general, because they understood this idea of delaying gratification. Even though what they want right now was the marshmallow, they knew that the thing they wanted ultimately, they had to override what they wanted right now in order to get the thing that they wanted ultimately. And that same thing manifests in all kinds of different ways in our lives. A lot of times we want to be fitter, happier, and healthier, so that's why we go to the gym. But what we want right now is to go out with our friends or to take a nap or to do something else, right? Obviously, that's not as strenuous or hard. And so in order to be the person that we want to be in the world, we actually have to override what we want right now. as my buddy Ryan Muncie would say, we have to say, fuck your feelings. It's not about what you feel like doing. It's about who do you want to be in the world. And then taking steps to be that person instead of constantly just feeding the desires that we have right now, the immediate needs and the things that we want in the present moment. And the reason I think that I'm bringing all of this up, the reason I think it's important to you is because there's something that you want to do in the world. And for some reason, there are things that we have these innate human desires for that we need to figure out a way to override. And so this isn't going to be an overly complicated episode today, but I just think that something that you should do is consider thinking about the person that you want to be. And then you should think about all of the activities that you do right now, because maybe you want to, and maybe those things are actually getting in the way of the person that you want to be. And then I think the reason that that's really important is if you figure out what those things are, then you can start taking steps to get around them. I think about the completely perfect example right now. I want this show to be something that makes it in the world. I want to be a podcast host, and it's what I want for my life right now, or for my life ultimately. But right now, what I really want is to go to bed because I've only slept 3 hours and I've been running all weekend. So sometimes we have to just say fuck our feelings and override the things that we want right now because we know that the things that we want ultimately need to take precedence. And so I hope you think about that, and I hope you figure out some of the things that you're doing right now that might be sabotaging or getting in the way of the life that you want or the person that you want to be. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow on Morning Coffee.